Thank you for the chance given to us to present our paper with the title, The Effects of PDC Cutter Geometries to the Drilling Dynamic in Various Geothermal Rocks, a comprehensive study using advanced drilling dynamic simulation. Let me introduce myself. My name is Stefania Pestaribu. Currently, I'm working as a design technical editor for Schlumberger Oil Construction. I work with my colleague to create this paper, Ramadan Yuar Mardiana. He is drilling product engineer for Schlumberger Oil Construction Drilling. These are the outline of the presentation. I will start the presentation with introduction, continue with the drill bits overview and selection process. After that, I'll present how drilling dynamic analysis perform with some case studies. And finally, I will close this presentation with summary and conclusion. As one of the country with the largest reserve of geothermal energy, Indonesia began to develop the infrastructure for geothermal production since a couple of years ago. Based on the latest data, with the achievement of 2.1 gigawatt geothermal power generation capacity, it put Indonesia as the second place in the world in utilizing geothermal power. By 2030, Indonesia aims to produce more than 8 gigawatt of geothermal power, becoming the world's leading geothermal power producer. One of the main factors that can affect development of geothermal energy is the high upfront cost. Based on the SPC summary, the cost of geothermal wells and the field development is around 30% of the total investment cost for a new geothermal plants. And one of the main factors that could affect the drilling activity is the selection of the drilling bit. Although the cost of the drilling bits only make up to 3 to 5% of the total drilling cost, it directly affecting the total cost of the drilling activity. The drilling bits are classified into types, roller open bit and PDC bit. Both of these have the advantage and also disadvantage. The roller open bit is relatively cheaper than PDC bit. It is durable for hard rock, but unfortunately, the use of this bit is limited by the number of the total revolution. Whereas for PDC bit, it has a higher upfront cost, but more cost per foot effective because it generates higher RP and no time limitation. Unfortunately, the conventional PDC is not durable to drill a hard rock. There is a new bit design called conical diamond element bit that combines the strength of roller cone and PDC bits, which is durable but doesn't have a time limitation. CDE has a conical cutter on the bit body that flow the rock, and the conical diamond element are placed on the bit body to protect the PDC cutter and ease the workload. Since 2016, the CDE bit has been run in 50 different runs in many geothermal fields in Indonesia. In average, CDE bits eliminated bit trips due to KRF limitation in TCI bit and generated higher ROP. The oil field service company started to develop three-dimensional cutters since a couple of years ago, and it was proven that at some application, 3D cutter perform much better compared to conventional PDC. This picture shows the comparison between conventional PDC cutter and one of the three-dimensional cutter based on the FEA and lab test. As can be seen, RDE cutter removed more compared to conventional PDC cutter when contacting with the formation. And the chart here shows the summary test between the conventional PDC and RDE cutter at different formation. The result shows that RDE cutter need less critical force to produce the same depth of cut as conventional PDC cutter. There are a lot of three-dimensional cutters in the market. However, in this study, we will focus on some of the cutters with similar shape. They are ridge diamond element cutter, two types of scribe ridge diamond element cutter and concave diamond element cutter. The difference between cutter can be seen in the slide. There are several steps that commonly used to do proper bit selection before drilling a well. The first step is usually offset well analysis, continued with the rock strength analysis, and then finally drilling dynamic analysis. For offset well analysis, the condition of the bit used in the previous well indicated by the bit ruling can tell a good story of what exactly happened in the bit downhole. And from the analysis, the same of different bit can be considered for the next operation. The second step usually takes by the drill bit company is analyzing the characteristic of the formation, including calculating the compressive strength of the formation using rock strength analysis software. The formation logs such as gamma ray and compressional strength from the offset well are used to calculate the compressive strength of the formation. And other characteristics can also be derived, such as formation abrasiveness and the nature of the formation impact. And from the root strength analysis, the software will determine several suitable candidate bit design. Based on the design considerations of the RSA software, several designs then simulated in an advanced FEA-based drilling dynamic simulation. And the simulation will be used to compare the stability, and the efficiency of the bit candidates to get the most optimized bit for each application. In this research, we are focusing more on dynamic analysis. The workflow of dynamic analysis started by calibrating the model based on the field data. Usually, rate of penetration and surface torque are used for calibration, with shock and vibration for some cases. Once the rock is calibrated, we'll do further simulation with different type of cutting structures. And finally, from the simulation result, we'll identify the most stable cutting structure for this type of formation based on the stability and efficiency factors. The purpose of the rock calibration is to replicate the response to the filtering in the field, and then to replicate it in the simulation platform using the available rock in the platform library. In this study, we do calibration for two different fields, field A in Java and field B in Sumatra, by picking a specific depth for the calibration. In this calibration, we try to replicate European surface torque using the actual field data. Once the process finished, we could finally get the rock model for the application. As can be seen in the slide, for field A Java, we have a simple inclusion in homogeneity formation with size 0.1 inch. And the hardness is slightly lower compared to default rock in the library, around 92% of the default rock hardness. Also, we get the friction factor 0.2 for open hole and 0.17 for case hole. For field B Sumatra, we can see that the formation in homogeneity is similar. However, the rock is softer than field A Java, only around 80% of the default rock hardness. But the friction factor in this formation is higher, 0.35 for open hole and 0.3 for case hole friction hole. The next step is to simulate all different cutters or calibrated model. The real bit model can be seen in the slide. We have conventional PDC cutter on primary row and conical diamond element cutter on secondary row. In this simulation, we are going to replace all the conventional PDC cutters with three-dimensional cutters, as already explained in the previous slide. The charts in this slide shows the result of the simulation for all of the cutters. The top charts are vibration and stick slip, as well as a bit and surface torque result, and it will be used for stability analysis. And the bottom chart is the rate of penetration for drilling efficiency analysis. The simulation shows that all the bits generate low axial vibration, whereas the lateral vibration is slightly higher, but still within low level zone, below 3G. In terms of stick slip, conventional PDC bit, SRDE1 and CVDE bit generate the lowest stick slip at the beach and also at the BHA. On the other hand, RDE and SRDE2 generate 2 times higher stick slip compared to baseline bit, but still in the low to medium zone. In terms of efficiency, RDE, SRDE1, and CVDE cutter generated higher ROP, around 10% to 18% compared to conventional PDC bit. On the other hand, it seems like SRDE2 is not suitable cutter for this application, as it generates the lowest ROP. So from this simulation, we can conclude that CVDE cutter is the best choice for this application in terms of stability. Similar optimization process was conducted for field B, simulating additional 4 3D cutters under the same environment with conventional PDC cutter with calibrated profile and friction factor. Looking on the shock and vibrations of the cutters generate low axial and lateral vibration with magnitude below 1G. On the other hand, all the cutters generate high stick slip at the BHA, around 90% and around 40% at the bit. And we can see that in terms of stability, there are not much differences between each cutter. The surface torque and bit torque also show similar trend, where RDE, SRDE1, and CVDE generate slightly lower torque than conventional PDC cutter and SRDE2. In terms of RP, CVDE generate the highest ROP, 25% higher than conventional PDC cutter, followed by RDE and SRDE1. So in conclusion, considering the bit stability and drilling efficiency, PDCB with CVDE cutter should be able to deliver better performance in this application. So from the simulation, we can conclude that every type of cutter could produce similar different response depending on the application. Advanced finite element analysis could help us to validate and to analyze the performance of the cutter on each type of application. And finally, for feature drilling optimization, it is very recommended to do a field trial for concave diamond element to replace conventional PDC and CDB. These are the end of my slide. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Hi there. Welcome to my presentation called the Managing Stakeholder-Based Social, Politic, and Environment Issue Management in Geothermal Industry. In this case, I'd like to also share the case from Star Energy company where I'm working for now. What is issue management? According to reference, generally, the issue management is an anticipatory strategic management process that helps organization to detect and respond to appropriately to emerging trends or changes in the socio-political environment. As in the early 1970s in United States, said by Henry Kissinger, that an issue ignored is a crisis invited. That is a response strategy and early warning actually for dealing with the emergent issue. If you see what is the emerging issue, it is stated in the issue life cycle presented by Hensworth and Mang, that the issue eventually start from the potential and then becoming an emerging, where this issue management start working. And issue, if it is not managed well or ignored, then it will increase, and it will be the coverable by media and other external stakeholders, where we call it as the cases here in the current situation. And if this case or issue is not well managed, it will become a crisis. Crisis that it is more and more difficult and required a big expenditure. It's a high cost, and it requires a lot of resources. Then the resolution is a must, because if it is not resolved, then probably the organization will be diminished or the company will bankrupt. So after this resolution, the issue will become back to the dormant. I try to make an analogy for this issue. If you look at this picture, issue is determined when everything still in current condition. Like here is in the stove case. If you look at the stove, issue can be identified earlier, whether you can see the piping inside, the gas piping, and also you can identify many things like the cleanness, like the heat from or also smokes, and also the aging of the stove itself, and the knowledge. If we ignore this, then the issue will become the case where there will be a fire. inside. Then this owner has to stop the fire. Otherwise, if she or he doesn't know to manage it, then the fire will become a crisis. It is more difficult because it requires other people help, and it also impacting other houses. The difference managing this lies on the level of emergency, the available of time to analyze, the method, and also resources required here. And to manage it, then we need also to have the strategy as well as the communication strategy. So it will be different from issue to case to crisis. We need also to if we want to manage the issue, then we suggest to follow the framework, starting from the issue environment, and then the issue analysis, and then we have to establish the issue resolution team before we resolve the issue to close the issue. And it will be evergreen process because it requires some monitoring and update for all issues. In issue environment, the main activity is to scan the operational and operation, whether you find or identify issue or not, using the PESTEL. This is only one sample, and then you have to log it. In the analysis, you need to categorize the issue and then to add first what if. This is what if issue is not managed well or issue ignored, and then identify what the impact from the issue based on the criteria we put. Like if we want to set the criteria on the cost, on the finance aspect, on the reputational aspect, on the operational breach, and so on, you can identify the criteria for it. And then put issue into matrix, what we call it as the issue mapping. And the issue resolution, you have to identify the issue age, awareness of the team member level, and share ideas of what caused it and map the process before we identify what is the gap and then how to resolve it. This is a resolution part where we have to define the closure statement, what condition required to close the issue, what safeguard we have, what mitigation plan should we develop, like an engagement, communication, or even making some contribution program, CD, CSR, etc. Then to make this, you need resources, of course, and also to identify all stakeholders inside, internal and external stakeholders who contribute to the issue, both as the resolving and also who will make the issue worse, becoming worse. You have to identify all these stakeholders. And then you need to execute all the mitigation plan. And the target is to close the issue. Then you need to confirm whether the issue can be closed or not. And then you can claim the saving, because on the issue resolution team process, we need to convert all the impact of the issue into dollar value. So when you resolve the issue, then you can claim the savings. And then you go back to the monitoring issue. This is a sample how we identify issue. It is commonly used from PESTEL, from political, economy, social, technology, legal, and also environment. You can see, for example, local business partner is one issue from social, because they need some work, some job from the company. So if we ignore this issue, then we can know what is the impact, what is the risk for not involving them as the local business partner. So we need to identify them. This is only a sample. You can pick one, or you can define the team should define what issues for your organization. The PESTEL itself is firstly known as PES, suggested by Aguilar in 1967. Okay, so going to Star Energy, these are issues that identify from each category, like environment, social, politics, and others. You see, like environment, we have landslides, spills, B3, this danger, toxic material, because Star Energy work as the geothermal company that, need some drilling project and then have heavy equipment, etc. It also has the surrounding community. They have their own issue, all the grievance, and also from the political, from the government and regulation as well. You see, the local leader election could become issue when they try to approach us to support them, whether we have to support them or we stand in the neutral position. The overlapping area, the conflicting regulation for the geothermal industry is common happen in Indonesia. So the others, like the communication, the negative tones, theft, and this is the security issues, the late payment issue, road access blocked by the community. So we have to also map the issue based on the impact and the likelihood, because we need to prioritize which issue has to be prioritized first. Like here in operation permit and landslide are the most top priority issue to be resolved, rather than the domestic water supplies is a low impact and low likelihood. This is another method to map the issue based on the sunburst. If you see the big area, meaning this is has a big impact rather than the small area. So we can now how we differentiate and priority. It looks like the social takes more attention and have a lot of issue for the geothermal operation. And if you look at these numbers, those are numbers number of issue in one area called Darajat. There are environment issue, social issue. It looks like in Darajat have the big social issue here all the time, but not in the last one. Last one, social and politics are about the same. Meanwhile, in Salak, the social issue dominated all the contributed to list of issue. Meanwhile, for total Darajat and Salak as part of Star Energy geothermal, it looks like the social is the biggest issue comparing to others. And if you look at this dynamic issue, you can see some issues still live for a long time here. And if you see the number quite the same, 18 to 18, eventually at that time, the new issue come and the previous issue is closed and remind this one. This is an example. Yeah. And this show you how issue life, it's so dynamic. And if you look at the issue age, the buffer zone always came up. Until now, it's not yet resolved. And also, if you see the water permit, it took some time. But some issue like road construction block, impact from the cater, and also the dead fish only appear once and can be resolved directly. But like in CISR, the team has solved, but now appear again. So, but luckily, we have a good knowledge management here that we know how to resolve the issue and we can implement here. So if we have this the good documentation, then it is good to resolve the issue. And when the stakeholder come, it comes when we do some issue identification. There's some stakeholder, or we can also make some stakeholder identification by using this method. But eventually it will come to the stakeholder issue management phase. And these are all the action from this one. This is stakeholder identification, from identification until the monitoring. You see some stakeholder like local government, it appears twice. So they have to issue for this case. And then after we do some stakeholder mapping, we know how to deal with them. Like in this top one, we need to collaborate. In this one, we need also to involve the stakeholder, and we need to consult on this area. And for this area, we need just to have to inform them. And when we list all the stakeholder and issue, we can see that like government agency related to a lot of issue, like local government as well as the local community. But some stakeholder just have only relate to one issue. This is make us easier how we can develop the stakeholder engagement plan. And the conclusion is since stakeholder has interest, concern, expectation to each issue, therefore bringing their involvement to the issue will help accelerating issue resolution. These are another study that we need to go beyond this presentation. That's all my presentation. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Indu Daniarta. I'm doctoral student under supervision of Professor Kolasinski at Wrocław University of Science and Technology, Poland. Currently, I'm also doing research in Energy Academy Indonesia. Today, I would like to present our work about comparative study of cooling sources in organic Rankine cycle for low temperature geothermal heat sources. Before we get started, I would like to highlight the outlines in our presentation. It consists of 5 sections, starting from introduction, comparison of DME, natural gas, water, and air, modeling and simulation, result and discussion, and finish it with conclusion. Okay, perhaps some audience already know that Indonesia has huge potential geothermal sources in the world, and only medium and high temperature geothermal sources are utilized as power generation, and the rest of it as direct use for agriculture and so on. In other case, gas demand in Indonesia is increasing, and based on the strategic plan from Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Republic of Indonesia, they reported that to meet the needs of natural gas for cooking like LPG, they are planning to substitute LPG to biogas, DME, and so on. Going back to geothermal, some of us might understand well that geothermal power plant requires a condenser to condense the working fluid inside the cycle for recirculation in the process, and commonly water or air are utilized as cooling medium in this power plant. In our study, we are going to introduce DME as an alternative and compare it with LNG, water, and air as cooling sources for low temperature geothermal or sea power system. In our study, the process to utilize cold energy as power generation could be done in regasification system, where the process is to change the liquid form of DME into gas phase. In our study, we also provide the process like trilateral flash cycle as comparison. Okay, so yeah, as we see in the table, this is the selected parameter I've provided to understand the comparison between DME, LNG, water, and air. Here, triple point temperature play a key role that below this temperature, the material will be in solid form. Another parameters like normal boiling temperature, we can store TME, LNG, and air in the liquid form below their normal boiling temperature. However, in our study, we were considering we just utilize air in environment. GWP and toxicity are other important parameters. That no toxicity for all and GWP for TME and LNG are quite low. So we can utilize TME and LNG for cooling medium. Okay, yeah, this is, yeah, as you see on the left side, this is the schematic layout for ORC and TFC in the simple form. They have evaporator, expander connected with generator, condenser, pump in the closed loop cycle. The blue lines is cooling sources through the condenser, and black lines is working fluid inside the cycle. The red lines is the geothermal heat sources. On the right side, this is the thermodynamic process in temperature and specific entropy diagram. The difference between TFC and ORC, as you can see that ORC need more heat to evaporate the working fluid until reach saturated vapor curve. So move the next slide. Yeah, this is the simple mathematical model for each process. As you see on the table, we are assuming that the condenser and evaporator are ideally isobaric, and the isentropic efficiency of the pump and expansion are set at 0.7. In our study, we are employing MATLAB for calculation and thermophysical library taken from CoolProp and RefProp. The temperature of evaporator is designed constant at 85 degrees Celsius, and the temperature of condenser is varied. The variation of temperature is provided in the last column of the table. Okay, for the result, yeah, this is the one of our result. As you see, this is the diagram of enthalpy change and the temperature of the condenser for low geothermal power plant that is obtained from our study. Air, water, TME, and LNG have their own operating temperature as cooling sources indicates on the top of this figure. As I mentioned before, we use free air. However, it has to be mentioned that this air at the environment is intermittent, that the temperature depends on the area, weather, time, and etc. This intermittent condition is also applied for water, and in this case, we are considering that the water at this temperature point for cooling medium. The black lines represent ORC and red ones represent TFC. From this diagram, we could see that water as working fluid inside the cycle has bigger enthalpy change in the condenser. What's more, among the organic Rankine cycle, organic working fluid, TME perform bigger enthalpy change in the condenser. Now we are looking at the performance of selected working fluid of low geothermal power plant based on the diagram of efficiency of the cycle and the temperature of condenser. It's still the same. Red lines represent the TFC process and black one represent ORC process. Generally, ORC perform good efficiency. And yeah, because of this efficiency, the black one above this red one, right? And at the certain temperature, water as working fluid in the conventional Rankine cycle perform better than the other ones. In our study, we are reporting that at the certain temperature, the DME or propane or other Organic working fluid also perform better efficiency than water. But in this case, the cooling source are LNG and TME. This graph is helpful for the engineers and researchers in design stage to determine what kind of fluid will be used to obtain the good performance. And then what's more about mass flow rate in the cycle? Yeah, we have mentioned that certain temperature range of TME as working fluid inside the cycle perform good efficiency. Therefore, in this simulation, we choose TME as working fluid as an example to determine the mass flow rate. This equation here is obtained from energy balance. So we could use it to determine the ratio of mass flow rate depends on the ratio of enthalpy change in the condenser. This graph is only applied with evaporator temperature at 85 degrees Celsius. These figures show us that if the cycle design at the temperature condenser at this point, at this temperature, so the obtained ratio is 1.1. It means that if we apply 1 kilogram per second of mass flow rate of the cooling system, the mass flow rate of working fluid will be 1.1 kilogram per second. Then we can use it in the calculation to determine the output power where the mass flow rate in the closed loop are the same. Okay, for the conclusion, to sum up, we have reported that 4 types potential cooling sources have been analyzed for low temperature geothermal power plant, and it is reported that propane as working fluid is still excellent option for cold energy utilization in LNG. It seems that TME might be suitable cooling fluid and also working fluid inside the cycle. And this integration of LNG or TME with geothermal system can scale up the business and give additional value for low temperature geothermal sources. Yes, and that's all my presentation today. If you have any question, don't hesitate to contact me through this email. And thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings. So here we are now at the 10th ITB International Geothermal Workshop 2021. First of all, we would like to thank to the committee for delivering this special event, the 10th IIGW 2029. My name is Reino Rivelino Duta Muhammad. In this occasion, I would like to share about our recent works, our recent progress, the social impact management of land clearing process in Dieng 2 sub-project. So here's the outline for today's presentation. We divide it into 5 chapters. The first is the introduction. There will be some short explanation about the project and its scope on the second chapter. The third is the legal framework. Fourth, social impact management. So it's actually the main discussion, the main topic of this paper. Last is the result and its conclusion. Here's the intro. Geodipa Energy, GDE, has planned to expand its electricity generation for another 110 megawatts. 55 megawatts both for Patuha and Dieng geothermal field. So this paper will focus on Dieng 2 sub-project located in Banjarnegara and Wonosobo District, Central Java Province, Indonesia. In summary, the Dieng 2 sub-project requires land in total of 30.8 hectares. Majority of it, around 30.5 hectares of land, is already owned by Geodipa, while the remaining 0.3 hectares is privately owned land. So chapter number 2, the scope of project impact. As we could see in the screen, here's the layout of the proposed Dieng 2 expansion components. So as I mentioned before, that Geodipa aims to have another 55 megawatts to be delivered in 2024. So there will be another 10 wells to be drilled, located in 4 existing well pads and 1 new well pad. So the new well pad is located here, the well pad 38, coexists with the power plant site. As you can see here, shown in light blue rectangle is the power plant site of the well pad 38. The table on the right side itself shows us about the name of the well pads, well pads 7, 9, 30, and so on. And on the right part of it is the number of the wells. So once again, in total, there will be another 10 wells to be drilled. The well pads located here, pad number 7, 10, 31, and 30 for the production well, and pad 38 and pipe 9 for the injection well. For the piping and access road, Geodipa will optimize its existing pipelines route, except for connecting well pad 9 to power plant. There will be an addition about 3,100 long new pipelines, once again, to connect well pad 9 to the power plant site. There will be new transmission line, about 6.9 kilometers long. Transmission line to be placed underground and will follow the existing pipelines route. As we could see in the map, the transmission line shown in yellowish line here, connecting substation Dieng. The substation is shown in this violet rectangle to the power plant site. So this brownish rectangle here is actually our very own Unit 1 Dieng geothermal plant. So we're moving to the next slide. As the focus of this study, the social impact management of land clearing process in Dieng 2 sub-project. Shown in this red dashed line is the location of well pad 38, well pad 38, or the power plant site. A total of 6.7 hectares GDE owned land will be cleared for the project. This area is located in Karangtengah village, Banjarnegara. Approximately 4 hectares of the total land is used to be leased by 23 farmers. Chapter number 3, the legal framework. The main legal framework for land clearing, as listed in this slide, first is the Presidential Regulation 62/2018 concerning social impact management in providing land for national development. Second is the Safeguard Policy Statement, SPS ADB 2009. Third is the Indonesia Valuation Standards, Standar Penilaian Indonesia, or SPI. The Presidential Regulation giving provision about compensation, actually, it could come in 2 scenarios, in the form of money or to relocate to the other non-titled land users. It also requires that the compensation itself should consider the cost of mobilization, cost for moving, house rent during the transition period, and the loss of income of the affected people. Its derivation, the Minister ITR BPN Regulation number 6/2020, So actually it's barely new, had been issued since April 22nd, 2020. For the safeguard policy statement, the main principle for land acquisition and land clearing policy is to ensure that the living standards of the affected people will be better or minimum be similar as before the project, and to provide opportunity to get benefit from the project. So the principles, first, to avoid and or to minimize impacts. Actually, it was conducted during the feasibility study. Second is another study, a social impact study that considers gender aspect and local cultural customs to assess the potential impact of the project. Third is to prepare land acquisition or land clearing plan document which outline the right of displaced person and how, in this case, Geodipa will apply its livelihood restoration strategies, the institutional arrangement, and even the budgets and implementation schedule. Fourth is to conduct some consultation, meaningful consultation with the farmers, with affected peoples, NGO leaders, and other stakeholders to ensure their participation of this project. Fifth is to increase the livelihood of the entitled party. And sixth, to discuss or to inform the land acquisition or the land clearing planning document and its updates, if any. So now we're moving to chapter number 4, the social impact management, the main topic, the main discussion of this paper. In line with the legal opinion issued by the Central Java Provincial High Attorney, the social impact management was conducted referring to Presidential Regulation 62/2018, as I mentioned before. So, the process itself started with the Social Impact Management Plan submission in February 19th, 2020. Having at least the information offers the land location, the area of extent, and its condition, considering farmers' cultivation. Second is the farmers' data, and third, the general information of the communities. In this case, the Karang Tengah villagers Banjarnegara. So as shown here in the right part of the screen is actually the cover of the Social Impact Management Document or Rencana Penanganan Dampak Sosial Kemasyarakatan (RPDSK). Following the submission of the RPDSK, the Central Java Governor issued Decree number 59030 in June 25, 2020. Is concerning the establishment of integrated team and implementing secretariat for social impact management. So it has the objective first to ensure the activities of National Strategic Program Development or Proyek Strategis Nasional. In this case is Dieng 2 project. Second is to optimize Geodipa's asset that used to be cultivated by 23 farmers, to make use of it as the Dieng 2 power plant site. And third is to realize or to fulfill Geodipa's contribution to government and local community. So referring the Minister ITR BPN 6/2020, the processes are divided into 6 stages. Start from the preparation, the data collection, verification, and validation, the appraiser assignment, the providing compensation or to relocate. Fifth is entrusting compensation fund. Last is the documentation and administration of its all activities. So the table on the right screen shows us about the actual activity, implementation of social impact management for land clearing process in Dieng 2 sub-project. Start from February to November. So it took about 8 to 9 months from the preparation until the report was received by Geodipa in November on the 2nd week. So in the next slide, we will have some explanation about the section B, data collecting, verification, and validation for the grievance redress mechanism study case. So the data collection result was announced from July 29th to August 7th, 2020. Another 7 days were prepared as the objection period, so it will be ended at August 14th. During this period, there were 11 complaints received by Karang Tengah Head Village requesting correction on the losses crops data. So some of the farmers, 11 farmers, crops were not included, were not identified as the affected assets. The objection then was submitted to the head of the integrated team at August 10th. In the next day, in the August 11th and 12th, the verification of data was carried out. So as the result, the objection has been accommodated and approved. The actual crops now were included or were identified as the affected asset and be calculated in the compensation value. So here's some photographs from the social impact management activity. The first picture is the coordination meeting July 2nd. Picture number 2, the data collection, verification, validation, and socialization on July 15th. On the next day, there was some discussion or aspiration submission from 4 former coordinators. In the picture number 4 is the posting of announcement of data collection result started in July 29th, 2020. Another photographs. Picture number 6 is the validation of our objection, as I mentioned before, about the grievance redress mechanism at August 11th. Picture number 6 is the onset review and information at September 2nd. Picture number 7 is actually, we could say as the main event of the social impact management, the compensation delivery. It was held in October 7th, 2020. A week later, picture number 8, taken at October 15th, is the land clearing and safeguarding assets. So basically, Geodipa built some information board, sign, then some fences to guard its asset. So now we're moving to the chapter number 5, the last slide, the result and the conclusion. So the compensation has been delivered towards 23 farmers, conducted on October 7th. The appraisal, the assessment gives fair replacement or compensation value of about 1.4 billion rupiah. The social impact management activities were conducted for about 9 months period, start from the February, the preparation to November 2020, when the report was received by Geodipa. As implementation of social impact management for 4 former coordinators, they has now been given a job. Then it concludes that the legal framework for public consultation must be understood, and the community itself needs to be informed well and be ensured that they will receive direct benefits from the project. This will be conducted in order to enhance public acceptance. So it's all right now. Thank you for having me in this 10th ITB International Geothermal Workshop. Once again, would like to thank to the committee for delivering this special event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings.
Good morning, the Honorable International ITB Geothermal Workshop attendees that are already attending this event. My name is Rizky Alasyari from NRK, Geoenergies and Petroleum Engineering Department UPN Veteran Yogyakarta. First of all, we would like to say thank you to International ITB Geothermal Workshop 2021 Committee and Reviewer for giving us opportunity to present our paper to this remarkable event. Today, with great pleasure, here we present our paper, which is the Carbon Emission Reduction in Geothermal Drilling Project, a preliminary study. We will begin with the preface, why we do this preliminary study, and why this study is very important. Nowadays, carbon emission that is commonly known as greenhouse gases, or the process of the releasing carbon component to the atmosphere that has an impact of the climate change during the global warming that creates so many disaster scenario in the future. To help the world against the climate change, Indonesia already signed Paris Agreement to the United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change at the Paris Climate Conference, also the Kyoto Protocol actually, to achieve the world goals, which is the keep temperature increases will below 2 degrees in 2030. And what is the relation with the geothermal development in Indonesia? Actually, sooner or later, the government of Indonesia will adopt the Paris Agreement 2015 about the carbon tax policy, which means if we generate more emission during geothermal drilling, we will tax more air too. And yeah, we know current geothermal campaign is the clean energy and become the alternative, but actually, in fact, the exploitation of this energy or drilling also contributes several amount of the carbon emission that can be ignored. So one of our goals in this study is to raise awareness about how we exploit these greenhouse resources within more cleaner way. Also how to monitor it during operation if we didn't have the tool for the monitor. Okay, to ripen this research objective, this study is started by offering the key deliverable that shown on the screen. In order to answer the key deliverables, we conduct the literature review regarding the GHG emission that are produced on each kind of energy, also long-term goals of energy companies regarding GHG emissions, renewable energy technologies that are able to support drilling operation, and another method that is used in this preliminary study is by conducting a numerical approach on the geothermal drilling project, about the case study and then the author experiences from the planning phase until post-operation to find the solution on reducing carbon emissions in the geothermal drilling project. This paper provides a reference for every energy company that seeks for integrated efforts on achieving low carbon emission in drilling project through this preliminary study actually. To achieve the geothermal drilling operation with the greener way, dealing with the future carbon tax policy for future geothermal developer cost efficiency, and also supporting countries and energy company net zero emission target. This is one of our product in this research, which is the compilation of top 10 giants energy company, carbon emission reduction ambition. This infographic show that the fact that carbon emission has become one of the world joint mission that needs to be takes precedence for supporting environmental sustainability that already echoed by Paris Agreement in 2015. Before we proceed to our results and discussion, we will explain to you about the scopes on GHG emissions. Scope 1. GHG emissions are the direct emission from sources that are owned or controlled by the company that includes on-site fossil fuel combustion and fleet fuel consumption. And then Scope 2 are indirect emission from sources that are owned or maybe controlled by the company that includes emission that result from the generation of the electricity, heat or steam purchased by the agency from utility provider. And Scope 3 are from that source that actually not owned or directly controlled by EPA but related to the company. Then, as all of you can see on the screen, that Indonesia has very ambitious target in 2030 to develop the geothermal energy, which means some of the drilling operation need to be conducted to achieve this ambition target. That means some of the carbon emission will be generated. That's why this research is very important about the carbon emission reduction in the drilling operation. Move to the case study. X4 well is one of the geothermal production well located in Indonesia. The well was successfully drilled in the 53.2 days with a total depth is 7,000 feet in measured depth. And the power supply of the drilling rig needed during the drilling operation is 1,700 horsepower, and this well has a distance approximately 1,770 kilometer from the third-party company that actually provides service and workshop for the preparation to drill this well. The first effort that need to be addressed is carbon emission estimation in geothermal drilling project. How to calculate in overall phase? Here the flow process to determine it. Starting calculate with the full consumption on the preparation phase or the workshop, and then estimate the CO2 emission for the surface, then go with the electricity generated by stationary combustible equipment during spot until the end of the drilling operation, and also add the emission from the ground vehicle during the operation too. The first is in the preparation phase before the drilling operation. This is also considered in this research that includes the workshop by service company in the town, and then the transportation of their service and equipment to the rig site. And the authors actually assume that common drilling service that consists of the 13 services, and for the workshop, the rest service and calibration, it was assumed that for each service, the common electric usage is 12 hours per day for 3 days is required, and the common electrical power capacity by industry is 14 kVA. With this assumption, the preliminary calculation as shown on the screen was summarized in this table. Same assumption before to determine the transportation of drilling service are shown on the table. And the total CO2 emission in pre-drilling operation is 30.71 tons of the CO2 emission. In the operation phase, the specification and operating time of all stationary combustible equipment that come from the case study of well X4, the operating time is of the rig equipment like mud pumps, cementing unit, and jet set for the accommodation was defined based on the drilling activity at well X4. Based on the assessment with the 53 days, it is generating 114.9 tons of the CO2 emission. Plus the ground vehicle during the operation with total 7.4 tons. So, the total CO2 emission to drill well X4 for 53 days is 122.3 tons of the CO2 emission. That's actually half amount of the emission. We talked about the emissions and emission before. So the question is, how to really reduce the carbon emission in the drilling project? Here we serve the integrated solutions. The first, alternative energy utilization for the power generation. For the workshop, we greatly recommend that using the renewable energy and energy storage actually. For the transportation to the rig site using biodiesel, slowly but sure for replacing the petrodiesel actually, because the biodiesel produce less carbon emission than petrodiesel. And currently, Indonesia's biodiesel production capacity has promising potential with increasing trends. This aspect upon the possibility to use biodiesel in wider aspects include drilling operation. Like in the left chart shown the production, and then while the right graphics show the average emission on utilization of the biodiesel in Indonesia. According to Du, Hakiu, and Komalapati in 2018, and also Kurto in 2021, biodiesel utilization for long-haul heavy-duty diesel truck produces a significant decrease of the emissions. The biodiesel produces less sulfur and carbon emission and related greenhouse gases by 41% than petrodiesel. These savings could increase the scenario of the carbon tax implementation by the government of Indonesia. The second is best practices on the operational management that lead to emissions reduction in the drilling operation. Some of the mindset in the current drilling teams actually nowadays frequently aim to reach the total depth as quickly as possible. But let's focus on the full consumption and also produce more emissions. And the strategy that served in the study, we can still go to the reach TD quickly, but also can optimize the reduction of the carbon emission generation Quite interesting, right? For the best practice, control and monitor VOB and RPM to have an optimal range of rate of the penetration is better than using maximum equipment capacity. The higher VOB, RPM, and ROP will affect the higher fuel consumption of the rig. This approach avoids excessive cutting that needs extra hole cleaning and wiper trip. Moreover, the extra operation not only takes more time to perform, but also increase the fuel consumption and emissions too. Before we continue drilling by making up new pipe stem connection, please kindly make sure that the wellbore is already clean from the cutting to reduce the stuck pipe that leads to non-productive time by working on pipe and that particular stand actually. And then for the directional drilling, the mud motor or rotary drillable system can expedite the total drilling time by eliminating the sliding or non-pipe rotation requirement. This system can help to reduce the drilling time by rotating pipes continuously using rotary drillable system that leads to reduce the fuel consumption of the drilling rig. Related to the geothermal drilling, the understanding of the drilling purpose also help to increase the efficiency. In case of the geothermal exploration, where the main objective is subsurface data, actually the acquisition in high uncertainty area, and then maybe the utilization of the slim hole drilling that has smaller amounts of the equipment and resources can be considered as the to increase the operational efficiency while still get the drilling objective. Next recommendation is about the accelerated well design improvement. By implementing the digitalization on the planning phase, the carbon emission can be reduced because to achieve the optimum well design and the planning will be more faster than before, reducing the planning day. And then the real-time operating is automation in the drilling operation. It's about the delivering real-time suggestion for quick decision making during the drilling operation, for problem or maybe risk prevention and operation optimization. This concept is illustrated in the workflow in the left of the screen as correlated to the carbon emission reduction. And this type of the operation will improve the decision making based on the machine learning that generate insights that source from the real-time data to make drilling operation more valuable, efficient, and safer operation. And here we at the end of our presentation. And what are the take-home messages of this research? The conclusions are: the carbon emission reduction is very important to support environmental sustainability, echoed by the Paris Agreement in 2015. And based on the numerical approach that served in this primary study, drilling well X4 is generate so much emission, which is the 122.3 tons in the drilling operation. And to reduce the carbon emission in drilling operation, the integrated solution need to be applied that consists of the replacing the diesel power with the renewable energy, and then implementing efficient drilling operation, and also maximizing the digitalization technology to optimize the actual drilling duration. That's our novelty in this research. Our earth, our environment is always become our greatest asset. Awareness about this initiative can save our life in the future. And here the author's recommendations are: there are not many publications that discuss carbon emission calculation and then approach, and also the reduction that occur in geothermal drilling operation, especially in Indonesia. And this research can be considered as the basic reference for the carbon emissions calculation. That is still very rare nowadays. Briefly, that research that provide in this research can be implemented widely and become the first step in an integrated effort to deliver lower carbon geothermal drilling operation through best practice and to achieve net zero emission target. That's all of my presentation today. Thanks a lot for your attention. We would like to apologize if we doing mistake during our presentation.